Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much indeed, A+, for this invitation tonight. It's quite impressive to face all of you tonight, so thank you for coming. Sorry about the delay. Tonight, we are just about to talk about the stone, but just maybe previously, as an introduction and as a way to set up maybe a background for the investigation we're having these days at the office. We wish to talk about two reasons to not talk about the stone first. First, because we just have one building in stone, so we need to talk about the other buildings we did at the office. And second, because we think with Cyril that there might be something a little more fundamental. We believe that there is something more fundamental for us, which is the issue of the soil, the issue of the ground, that we are trying recently to define with Cyril. And to start, we want to present a few images that we like and that we think, with images with which we are thinking. First one is an image from Sophie Ristel-Huber, who's a French photographer, French artist. She did this image in 2006. And this image shows, frames a huge scarf in the middle of a road and forces us to look at the ground in another way, forces us to look at something that's happening beyond the surface of the ground. And with this image in mind, I think we need to review and to think again about the images that we've seen during the 20th century. For example, this very famous image of this collage from Mist, which of course we like a lot, but somehow which organizes a distance between us and the object that are laid out on this very abstract surface. And this is maybe one of this debate that the 20th century had, one of the debate of the modernity, that with Cyril recently and with the stone, we more and more want to question. And one last image, another tragedy, which is illustrated here with an installation that Tadashi Kawamata made in 2016. This installation was made first right after the flood due of the tsunami that happened in Japan in 2011. And again, what we are interested in here is the switch of the point of view. The fact that from a view that used to be from above and from the sky, I think more and more artists and more people are asking us as architects to think about what's happening beyond the surface of the ground. So this is kind of a background that we are investigating these days at the office with our team at the office, and this is a short list of the questions we are raising. But these questions, of course, are now more and more integrated in the background we're just trying to describe. So the question of the resource, the fact that they are all limited today, which is something maybe modernity did not consider. The notion of the context, which we like to call to appertain, how a building belong, and what could be the strategy, which is not maybe formal or stylistic anymore, but in a way to consider the material, to appertain to some places. The question of the abstraction, and maybe behind that there is the question, the abstraction as a method, as something that you integrate in the design process, not abstraction as an object that you wish to build, but abstraction as something that you progressively reach in the design, the assembly, the newness, and so on. But this is now maybe a little more for us, more and more, and maybe it's just the beginning because our stone experience is quite recent, and the stone is maybe the most powerful material to integrate this new relation with the ground. But this is now what the topics that we reach and that we want to achieve in this new background. And so first we will talk about the three projects. Two are built, another one is unbuilt, and then we will talk about the project in stone. So first one to begin, it's a project that we did in concrete. So it's a project we finalized in 2013. It's the first project we did with Cyril when we began our practice in 2009. in a master plan that TVK did in the south of Paris. So the principle is the extrusion of the plot, the whole plot, and on each, the extrusion of a plot, and we separate the floor plan in 4 parts, and in each angle we dispose a living room which is extended outside with an outdoor space. So here quickly an image of the facade, which treats with regularity, with softness, with roughness, sorry, and with a rhythm, with the fact that it's simply the same window that is repeated all over. And maybe, which is more important than the rest, this kind of intuition we had at the end of the building, when we built this model, we said, okay, let's try now to embrace and to consider a little more. And it was at the end of the project, so that's a question that has been raised at the end of the construction. We said, okay, let's make a model that take care and that consider a little bit more the thickness of the building and the fact that there is always something underneath what you build. Another project is a single family house we made approximately in the same times than the first building. This is the land of the plot, so it's very typical Norman landscape, very beautiful. This is more or less the view of the living room now. So it's what we call a bocage, very humid with hills and trees in the northwest of France. And the process was to first look at what is traditional in the territory of Normandy, and to register somehow the typical farmhouse that exists in Normandy. And the process, the way we wanted to abstract this object from this traditional form to another one, was to double what we call la longère. And inside the longère, we decided to put, because of the new thickness that was generated with this duplication, we decided that we should integrate inside the building some interior protected outdoor spaces. So this is an image of the plan. The entrance is here. When you enter, you face the living room here. You have 2 parts, a more technical one, which is the kitchen, garage, and working space here. And let's say the night part here on this side with 2 bedrooms, a larger double bedroom for the children, bathrooms, and then the living room here facing the view that we had on the first image. And the living room is now integrated and extended with these 3 outdoor spaces. And an image from an outdoor space, which is a veranda, which is totally protected from the outside because it's Normandy, so the weather is not really ideal to have some unlimited outdoor space. And facing the living room, and on the opposite side, another outdoor space. Here, the building is built also with wood skeleton, and the skeleton is then filled in with hemp, which is a material that we start using more and more, because here in this case it was very it was not so far from the construction site, so we kind of found this balance between the fact that we were keen on using material that were coming from not so far from the construction site. Let's not be too local, because it very rarely comes from underneath the building, but not so far, and also the fact that the duplication of the building was offering some kind of newness, some kind of a new step further to reach some kind of abstraction. And this balance between an abstraction and the way that the building belongs to some place because of the way it is built was maybe the beginning of a discussion of interest that is now more and more important. Another building is 15 apartments building that the construction site is just about to begin in Paris 18. Here we showed this axonometric view. You have here below it's concrete slabs, concrete and columns, concrete slabs and concrete columns. Sorry, and on the top, which will then embrace and surround the entire building, an envelope, and this envelope is made also with a secondary structure, which is made with a wood skeleton, and again filled with hemp. And the capacity of this envelope, what we like here is the availability, the capacity of this envelope to organize, on the one hand, the irregularity of the site, so its availability to turn and to be bent and to be folded, and also the way that here, as we can see, it also questions another tradition that we like in Paris, the tradition that dates from the 13th, more or less, with people like Rouchepitz, and the principle of the thick facade, of this ambiguity between the bow window and the twin facade. And the relation between the fact that we appertain at some way at this tradition and the way that we build this tradition with a new material is also the kind of balance that we enjoy to stimulate. And at least this building that we built 17 apartments with stones, the construction was just finished in last December, so in Paris 11, Rue Oberkampf. And of course, when we talk about the stone, of course, all that we just said had a few more or less real implication with this notion of soil, of ground. And now, of course, with the stone, we are more and more involved and more interested. And as I said, this background is clearer and clearer for us. And of course, to start this journey and this explanation about the stone, we have to get and to enter inside Earth, inside the planet. So this is an image of the entrance of the quarry, of course, a limestone quarry. So again, this entrance we have that was during the construction, right before that the construction began. So we are keen on knowing that we have our ground above our heads. This is an image of a plan of the quarry, so we can see that our blocks, stone blocks, have been extracted here. It's something that it's of course very interesting when you work. I mean, the only experience we have with the stone showed us that you have a very particular relation with your material. You can select, you can see, and you can understand how the material evolved from its natural situation until it's more constructed and culturally involved situation. This is the blocks, our blocks that are being extracted. Blocks laying, I don't know which one are ours, but the blocks that have just been extracted that are now on the top of the surface of the ground. And then here, the blocks that we did choose, this one for the prototype that we did for the facade, not exactly for the facade at the end. But what we are interested in here, again, is this very particular moment that you have with the stone, and I think that this material is very powerful for that, is the fact that when you look at these blocks, it is somehow still part of the ground. It's still a fragment of the soil that has just been extracted, but also already in our minds somehow columns and lintels and gems, and this this immediacy, this very obvious switch between that state and another one is very fascinating, we have to say. And it reminds us that we can also have the same kind of reading when you look at this image that we all know, just like the one with Miss at the beginning. But here it's somehow the opposite. You can still see the old ruins and the old temple, but you can also see at the same time the fact that the rocks began to be soil and begin to be soil and ground again. So let's get back to the project. This is, the quarry is located in the southwest of France, in a region called l'Anjou, close to the city called Angoulême. And this is Rue Oberkampf with the building which is here. The four stone layouts of the four facades. This one is the one on Rue Oberkampf, and the three other ones are the ones that are facing the inner courtyard inside the plot. And it's this is the discussion we had at the very beginning when we start working with a contractor, Entreprise Bonnel, which is a contractor from Angers, in between, more or less in between Paris and Angoulême. And we realized when you, and this is quite naive, but we realized when we started working with a stone that you had, when you start laying out the different pieces and the different elements in the facade, you have to kind of make a choice between either do we make a wall, or in a wall I mean continuousness somehow, and if you make this continuity then you make holes inside the facades to make windows, or on the other hand you can also make piles and just stack stones one on each other, and this is the second option that we decided to follow. So here you can see the different elements. So you have stones here, the lintel, another stone that links the two lintels, so that's one stone, and the stone belongs as well on one window and another one, and on another one. As you can see here, so you have the piles, so 4 blocks for one pile, and 2 lintels for one that are being held on one pile. And the kind of other process or comment dire, ce retrait, this offset, sorry, that we decided to do, again, to kind of feed this ambiguity between being, am I a column or am I a wall, we decided that we should subtract a piece of matter, that again, to reveal the assembly and the fact that at this very moment, you have this ambiguity between the lintel and the column here. So in this image, you understand that here we have the pile and this subtraction of matter, so we get matter out of, we cut off the matter, the material, rather than adding, like we will see right on the image after. We can see that we feed and we illustrate this ambiguity that exists, that kind of always exists. We think that always exists when you build with stone between the wall and the column. So here at the end, we have this understanding of the old Osmanian tradition, which is, again, the fact that when you illustrate and when you emphasize the position of the elements that are constructing the window, here you can see that you add some material to create a mot de nature and a decoration on the facade. We decided that we should, in our times, to save a little matter, that we should rather take material out of the construction to reveal and to express this ambiguity still between this column and the fact that we are a wall. From above this time, because with the above point of view, you can more easily, let's say, understand the situation of the building inside the plot. So L shape with a gradin, sorry, inside the plot to liberate and to generate generous outdoor spaces here for the apartments. Rue Berkampf is here. The plan, so Rue Berkampf, the gradin I was talking about, and it is organized in kind of 2 parts. The first part you have one typical floor plan which is made with 1 3 bedrooms apartments and a studio, and the other one on this side, which is on this floor 2 bedrooms apartment, but each gradin takes a room out, so you start with 4 bedrooms, 3, 2, and then a studio at the top. And here we can see, sorry, before the way it is built, so we have these 2 structural lines with steel that are holding the massive wood floor plates that you can see here. So you can see steel, the massive wood floor plates, and the wall which is made with stones at the end here. Stones that are, of course, holding the building. So you see here the relation between the 2 courtyards, the relation we wanted to create between the first courtyard and the other one in the same urban block. The view in the other direction, this picture that were done by Maxime Delvaux, which we thank because we like them a lot, by the way. And here, let's also talk a little bit about the fact that we want to use concrete. And we use concrete for a lot of reasons. First reason, maybe, is the fact that it is very difficult to us to not use and to avoid concrete in construction today, because here structural matters. We know that the soil here is pretty bad, so we have to dig quite deep, more than 12 meters inside the soil to hold the buildings. So we decided that we should extend the presence and the realm somehow of the concrete beyond the surface of the ground. What we can see here. And secondary, we thought that it's interesting to keep sort of dialogue between the stone and the concrete, and to maintain the possibility for both material to exist and to coexist together. This is something we are more and more interested, saying that to us there is no much reason to reconsider this war that happened in the beginning of the 50s after World War II, saying that concrete kind of killed the economy of the stone, and we think a good manner for the stone to exist today is to persist and to coexist economically, but also in the way we think the building and the assembly. And of course, the dialogue that very easily exists when you send we send it the ponce, we send it, yes, the concrete on the basement, and it reveals the rocks inside so you can very easily aesthetically provide some discussion, some dialogue between the two, again, between the two materials. And maybe a third reason was to more spatial matter. Reason, the way somehow it is also very interesting to use concrete to develop some rooms and to provide some better relation between the inside and the outside, which is something which is very modern, of course. So here, from the opposite window of the other inner courtyard in the same urban block, so you can see here very large beams that have been casted on site on the piles here that you can see, and that provides some very larger windows than the one that has, of course, that have lintel with stones. So here you see the very huge beam that's also une allège for the level above. And here a view of the apartment inside, so it's more or less the one that we saw on the plan before. So you can see the wood that we left visible from below, and this beam that provides a better experience of the outside from the inside of the building, which of course the stone is kind of questioning always, technically. And the building inside the Rue Oberkampf with the concrete, basement. This is it. Yeah, thank you.
So I'll give the word to Gilles Perraudin right away. Voilà.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'm sorry because I'm very late. But there is snow along the road, and it's very difficult to come here. Sorry also for my English. My English is very bad. I have a very poor vocabulary, and I'm sorry. Okay, I will present my work. Not all of my work, because I have built many buildings during my long life now, and but I will show you the project made with stone. Yes, it's okay. It's very beautiful. Yes, I will begin by my story with when I was a student. I began the School of Architecture in the 70s, and at this time we begin to be to know the problem with the consumerism and the limited resource of the earth, and we read book of Herbert Marcuse, or we study the book also the studies of Ivan Illich, and we look to the architecture of some like Charles Moore or some of them, and we discover that also we can make good. Drop City, which is one of the experiences at this time, where architects are going to work to mix the construction and conception, and it's why I don't follow really a school of architecture, because it was after 68. There is nothing in school of architecture, and I decide to make experience of building construction in a firm. I was engaged on I don't know if engage is the right word, but I think you understand what I mean. Je me suis engagé in the building in a firm. We have with some of my comrades, and we decide to build a house in wood. And these buildings this house are still living now, and it's a very good experience for me. And in this way, I decide to work with André Ravero, which is an architect who lived in the Sahara, in the desert of Sahara, and I follow him in his way of how to understand architecture, situated architecture. He lived in Sahara, and he built some buildings, some houses, he have also an award with the Aga Khan for his work, and he built only 10 buildings in his life, but each of his buildings is a masterpiece. And I discovered with him the relation between climate, architectural form, and people, and how the people lived in this house. And it was a very important experience for me as a student, not only because of relation with natural material. I will show you after why I am coming to build with only material natural, but I think that this experience was very important for me. I think that everybody here knows the problem of the climate, the change of the climate, and how it's urgent to react against this problem. And all of the scientific now are agree of a problem made by the industrial development, which is responsive of CO2 emission, and also with the pollution on the earth. It's because of this consciousness I decided to build building with only these natural materials, and I will explain you why. It's very important for us, for architects, to react and to have a new attitude now for that, because 30% of CO2 emission are responsive by the building process. And it's why your responsibility now, and I think there is a young architect here, and your responsibility is to change completely the way to make architecture. And I think that I try to show how it could be possible. And one of my question is how to build building now without CO2 emission, without using the energy, fossil energy. And in this question, I find the answer. The answer is very simply, it's in vernacular architecture. Why? Because people who they have built this kind of architecture in the past or now in some part of the world have no energy to build this building, have no fossil energy, and they have built it with first without energy, only except the human or animal energy, or some of resources like water or wind to make machine to work. And also they built with materials very near of their place, and these materials, naturals, are very safe. And that's why I look to this kind of architecture. And if you look around the world, you can see architecture in stone like that, which are very beautiful. It's in France and in the south of Italy. And you know, there is the same shape, but in different country. And then you find it here. It's in Yemen, very beautiful building, very high. I am always amazed by this kind of architecture, which is digged on a rock like that, or this one in China. And it's very, for me, it's very important to understand that, because why we cannot do exactly the same now? If people have did this, you can do it now. In my country, there is houses built in earth. This barn have 500 years old. It's very, and very, you can see there is nothing, no maintenance, no more maintenance except the roof. But you find also beautiful architecture where people are made decorative paintings to make the respect they have to their own homes, house. And it's built in earth, it's in Africa. And of course, I discover the work of Hassan Fatih. I think you know, with this famous Egyptian architect who built, we rediscover the way to build houses with techniques, with earth. It's very, very interesting. You know, it's in Iran. And also in wood, you can see very, very beautiful buildings built in wood. And it's the barn in America, in the United States. And if you look to these two pictures, it's very interesting to notice one thing. On the left, you see the people have built on a very very difficult place with a slope very high, very hard, and to maintain a place where agriculture is possible. The people in the past have intelligence to maintain the maximum of place for agricultural. And then on the right, you see how it's a very high density of a small town, very small town, to maintain free all the surrounding. And it's an attitude we have to think when now you develop the town. But also, in fact, historic construction, which are very interesting to learn how you can build. This is the famous aqueduct of Pont du Gard in the south of France, just near the place where I lived, and it is a very famous example of a bridge, a building, which is still staying after 2,000 years. And also, yes, we can. And when I begin to use stone, because before I use earth, I built some building in earth at the beginning of my career, and then I built with wood, and then I discovered the stone. And with stone, I decided to imagine a strategy, a process to begin with in the quarries. You can see the quarries near the Pont du Gard on the right. But before I will say you that sometimes after lecture, some people ask me a question, but there is no more stone in the planet. It's difficult to find. It's a limited resources, and I just show you that if you don't know, but the Earth is in stone. All of the Earth is in stone, and like all of the universe, it is in stone. And the resources is completely. It's not a question about this resource, because you can find all of the stone you want. And I decided to begin with the process with quarries in the south of France, and I don't know. It is, yes. This is the quarries near the Pont du Gard, and you can see the huge block they have cut on the quarry with a machine, very simply. You can divide the stone on small. It's huge block which are defined by the size of the transportation, and then you can resaw this block in a small one to define a module, and it's with this module I decided to compose and to build my first building. This stone are carried with a truck, which are maintained with very carefully to avoid some risk of cracking. And then you use it on a building with a crane, and this schemes is simply illustrated the way to take it and to put it, and it's only one operation. And I discover this with the experience I have on this kind of building, and it's some picture of one of my my building, one of my project. This is not the same, but and after you imagine easily that it's when you have put this stone, you have finished the building. You don't need any paints, anything on the surface. You have finished your buildings. And after I have decided to build with stone, like on a such process, which is, as you can imagine, very strict, very simple, with nothing complex, because of the cost of in each operation you make on the stone. I decide, like Roland Barthes says, not to be modern. I think it's not important for me to be modern, and it's why it's very important, because modernism is probably the problem of the architect. Don't say anything about modernism. It's a bad word, and there is nothing to do with that. Modernism is the problem of the architect, and we have to put on une poubelle all the book about modernism. I will show you some of my project, but I will show how on each experience I did, I discover one of the quality of a stone. First, reversibility. I don't know if it's a good word, but it doesn't matter. When I built my first building, which is a building I decided to do for myself, because I have some vineyard in the south of France. You imagine, it's near Nîmes, just on the Camargue, which is a Rhone delta on the Mediterranean Sea. And I've discovered, because each day I build by myself this building. First, because I don't find a client, we will build with stone. It's because everybody said to me that I am completely crazy to build in stone now in the time of modernity. Built with stone, it's completely crazy. And the only client I found was me. And I decided to take the risk to build for me this building. And this is a building without any concrete, except just small semelle. I don't know how you can. I can show you, with just 5 centimeters high. Just to make a flat place to put the stone, and there is nothing between each stone. I made I made this after the construction, because of the wind will go through the building, and I realized that this I don't remember the name of the mortier we put on each stone it's not for the stability, but it's only for the proof, waterproof, and also for the air. And each day after the work, I wander on my building, and I realized that something was not on the right place, and I decide the day after to change it, and we take some stone and we put on another disposition. It's very interesting to imagine and to realize that it's very easy to change, and it's why I said that when you have built one building in stone, it's a new quarry, because you can reuse this building, the stone, without any amount of energy. And it's very interesting, because there is a great difference between reused and renewed. And reused, you don't need any energy to reuse something. But if you have to change it to for example, aluminium, you can renew the aluminium, but you need the same amount of energy to make a new aluminium piece. And it's why it's very interesting to imagine that you can change. Sorry, comment on change déjà? Je sais plus. Non, c'est ça. Bon, pardon. Je vais faire là. It's the first building I did in stone, and I discovered in the same time with this very simple architecture that you discover the fundamental of architecture, which is only reason, proportion, light and materials. Only these things. All of the imagination of other shape is not very interesting. And it's also because of it's a very fast building, because it's a dry system to build, because you just and it's a project for a man who have only very cheap also. This is a project for a man who have just he wants to build metallic barn with metal cladding on it, and it's for winery, and we propose to him to build it with the same budget to build in stone, and we did it, and this is the building. It's very simple, in fact, to build with a stone. You imagine each stone you takes 10 minutes to put it on the wall, and you can build a very large building very fastly. And also I discovered for this project, which is a winery in the south of France, for religious women who lived in abbey, and they need because they make wine for not to drink, but for to live, and they have built it by themselves, not exactly by themselves, but just singing something to some cantics for the man who are put the stone on the building. But the people who have built this building they are carpentry. They have never built stone before. And this is the building just near an old farm. It's a building where the woman works on not only for the wine, but also for jewelry and something like that. And they need light, but in the same time they need to be protected from people who are cannot see inside. It's why we have a very thick wall of 1 meter. And another experience is with this building, which is a museum in Corsica, which is an island in the Mediterranean Sea, and it's in Patrimonio, which is a very beautiful place in the north of Corsica, and it's a place of famous wine. And the town of the village of Patrimonio decided to build not exactly a museum, but a building with different functions, which is a meeting room, testing room, and something like that. And I decided to have for each function to have a building, which is a building based on a square, we've divided by 1/3, and we have two solutions. One is to have some office or some services, yes, services on this place, which is on the north place, or two columns here. And during this the construction, the first stone we used, the quarry, have been closed, and it was a problem because of the delay, and we decided to use another kind of stone. We find it on France, in the continent, and this stone are coming by boat to Corsica. And it's, for me, you can mix on the same building different stone, and it looks like this is stone which they are on the site just before, because Corsica is an island with many different kinds of stone, and on the same site you find different kind of stone. This is one of the stone we have demolition an old wall which is on the site, and use it as the basement, which with concrete, but with no iron on it, nothing, just very large, very thick wall to support the building with the stone. Each stone have 60 centimeters deep, and it's the only thing we have, except on the roof, made of. I can show some. Yes, but before this building is enclosed with a very large pergola, which is there is a place where they can plant vine, and this vine will go to this pergola to make climbing protection to the wall, and to make also a place where you can go and visit the different parts of the building. There is different strategy to protect against the sun, like I explained here, vegetation, and then also some place just between the wall and the roof where the light could comes, and some sun breaks also in stone, and then some place where which is also ventilation, but you can have some lights from that. This is a place where you can find different kind of lights, some between the wall and the roof, to provide some lights to this roof, the sun breaks in stone, and then this is the place. It's the place where some lights comes here to just on this place. And as you can see, the stone is rough. This is châtaignier. I don't know how is the name in English, which is this is wood coming from Corsica, and this is also pine from Corsica, which is very nice pine, pin lariccio, which is a pine coming from Corsica. This is a place where you can you have a two kind of stone, and also the light coming from some way to building. Easy complexity. What I mean with this, I think that with stone, complexity is very easy. Yes, I know it perhaps a little bit contradictory with what I show you, which is very strict, very simple. But we have designed a house in Lyon, which is on a very in place in the city of Lyon, in the center, and on a plot of land, very, very small, and with strict regulations. This is the street around, not exactly there, but I will just explain you that we have a distance between the street to this line, and it's defined the limit of our building, and it's the same here. And we have to design the house on a very difficult place, and also the only way to go in the house is this door, and it's why we have this diagonal penetration in the building. And we decide, because of a very narrow place, the dimension of this for the house, this plot of land, we decide to put all the services on blocks, like this one, and these blocks supports the roof. And to have more complexity, the roof here is not at the same level that this roof, and the land is higher here than this part, and we have it's warm size. Warmth view, and you can see this building, these blocks, which contains all of the services and which supports the roof here and here. This is the house, which is the result of this strict building regulations, and it defines the shape of the house. We have do nothing to imagine another shape, and between each blocks you have the large openings which are glazed, and I don't see it, but the main rooms are between the blocks. Bedrooms, this is the living room, another rooms here, and it's defined by the position of a block. This is the house, now built in Lyon, with large opening, like you can see here, with a small pool. And then when you are inside the house, it's like a promenade. You can go through the stone. You go through the blocks, and it's an experience because you discover some place to sit inside this block, or there is a different height of the place, and it's provide experiences, different experiences in this. It's like a landscape. It's a house lived like in a landscape, and you see the diagonals, and all of these blocks are made by stone, and you imagine for each stone, each block, the complexity of a stone, because when you build with stone, you have to define each blocks very precisely, because it's cut in the quarry and then put on a truck, as I showed you before, and then it's in the site and building on site. It's like playing to play with blocks, and then to put one on another one, but you need to have to define very precisely each stone, and you imagine how it is complex, and but it's very, for me, it's very passionate. And we decide after this range of experiences to build for social housing, and to demonstrate that we can build social housing with stone. And it is in Cornebarieux, which is a town in banlieue of Toulouse. And this is the first building for social housing we did in this place. The shape was imposed by the master plan, and okay, why not? And we design a house where each apartments are going through north to south to provide comfort during summer, where the bedroom are in the north, the living room in the south, with the buffer zone. You can see it here, the buffer zone with large openings, and then this is shutters, wood shutters. You can close this place or opening it to have the sun. Here it's in winter, the sun is going inside the apartments, and then you can use it as a place for in summer to live here. If you can opening very largely this windows, and the living room have around 20% more of surface to live during summer, and then in winter during night you can close this part and to make a buffer zone with inside. And in the same time, we discover also the great inertia of a stone. And it's a real question, very, very important. Because now everybody says, and the rules and says that you need to have insulation. But if you have insulation, you cut really the quality of a stone, which is this inertia. And this kind of stone is very soft stone, and they breathe and they catch the humidity of the air, and during the day, during the night, they catch this humidity, and then they release it during the day to refresh the house. I think that everybody here have experience of such building, such house, where during summer it's very fresh inside. Okay, there is problem during winter, but I will develop if somebody wants to have more details about that, how you can protect during winter against the freeze. So this is the building. Now, after three or 4 years after construction. It's a beautiful place with trees around, and a very nice place near Toulouse. And how you can see, people have closed their shutter or open it. It's different. Everybody kind. It's during summer, and you see the shutter have been closed to protect the place against the sun during the day. And then at night you can open it and open the windows inside, and to make cross ventilation to refresh the house. I will say also that each materials we use in our building are without anything on it, any chemical protection. And we use, for example, here we use kind of wood. It don't need any chemical protection. It's natural, and it's for everything on our building. This is stone, this is wood, and also ceramic in the ground. This is the north part, where you see the northwest part. We see the windows of a bedroom. This is the distribution with stairs opening to the outside. And when you come on your apartment, you go to this place between shutter and the windows. It looks like this is a public part, and then a semi-public one, and then you go to the house. This is same. Can see the. And after that, a private developer decide to make a development, a very important development on this plot of land. There is small housing units, individual one, and this is individual but isolated, and this two new buildings, two new social housing building in this part. And we have, you can see the buildings, which is, we have to find quarries which are able to make such amount of stone to build. There is around 80 apartments for in 1 year. And you imagine how you have to cut all of this stone and then to build it. But it's not really a performance. I will show you something just after to demonstrate that it's not really a performance. This is the way to build the house. You can see stone put on another one. This is the very simple. We have design with a very precise building with just very small, with a staircase to go up, with two bedroom. This is I don't see. Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. There is two house. This is two house different, which is very simple, with living room, place for the kitchen, and then there is two bedroom with the bathroom here, but with a large. Well, yes, I don't know. It doesn't matter. This is a place to put the cars outside, and this is a wood. This is a wood without any protection, chemical protection, and this is the stone which is just put with it. And now the trees are going to grow, and they make and then also flower with this place to have climbing vegetation to protect this and to mask it in the same time, to hide it, because it's not very nice. And you see this is the building, you know, very simple, with living room at the basement and bedroom on the upper part. And also two new building, social building in the same, not exactly the same, but with the same principle that the first one we did here, with some protection, this is the inside the staircase, the distribution of the building, and then also you can see the stone very clearly here, and then also this place for people. It's not exactly the same shutter. You can see it's not the same than the first one. You can open it completely. And as you see, we decide also for economic reason not to transform the stone and to have the sign of the sewing, of a large sewing, and then when the lights is just coming here, you can make some patterns which are very interesting, and it takes the sense of these materials who are cut, yes, by machine, but machine guided by man, and it's very. And now I will finish with some project we did. Now we are still in studies in this is buildings in Lyon. Very interesting one, because it's superposition of workshop. This is a place for offices, and then three levels of house, entirely built in stone. It looks like this is Lyon. This is some picture of a place where this building will be built. You can see in the Croix-Rousse in Lyon, the hill of Croix-Rousse, there is a building in stone. I think just you can imagine, yeah, there is 30 to 40 meters high, which is very high, and the basement made with rough stone, on 3 level for this one, and then it's stone masonry, and this is in Croix-Rousse. There is an all the old building are very high because it was the place where people make canvas, and they need very high apartments, and each there is 5 meters here, and this place to this one 5 meters, and if you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 40 meters high. It's very high, and this is a famous stairs in Lyon, also because the buildings in Lyon, the apartments are distributed by outside staircase and gallery. This is the building. You can see very simple, made exactly the same with columns, with stone columns, and then lintel in stone. And this is for the workshop. This is the offices, and then 3 levels. 1 level of single apartments, and this for duplex apartment with terraces on. And then this building is we try to build to avoid any concrete on it. We can discuss about concrete, which is the materials we are going to destroy the planet, and it's why it's very important to discuss about concrete, because it's impossible to recycle the concrete, but we can have a discussion if you want about concrete. And we try to make all of the structure on it in stone, and we rediscover the quality of the vaults, and you can see here the vaults inside the building, and to support all of the stories. And this is now we develop some project in Switzerland. This is a competition. Unfortunately, we don't won this competition, and it's a tower, a very small tower of 65 meters high. And we decide to make it entirely in stone. After each lecture I give, everybody said, but it's impossible to build such a building. And I answer that there is 2 beautiful towers in stone in Paris of 65 meters high, which is the 2 towers of Notre Dame. They have 65 meters high. And then also, this is the section of this building. This is offices in the basement, and then apartments at the higher level. This is a building built by Fernand Pouillon, which is a French architect. We have built many buildings with stone, with rough stone, and this is 60 meters high buildings in Alger, which was built in 1960 around. No maintenance on the building until now, nothing. And there is no problem. And you know that Alger and Algeria is on an earthquake place. There is some earthquake in this part of the world, and as you can see, nothing on the construction. It's the structure is very soft, and you can imagine during during earthquake, you can move without any too many problem. And this is the, you know, how it is without any maintenance during 50 to 60 years. There is some studies made now in Zurich, in the School of Polytechnicum of Zurich. They have demonstrated that such building built with stone is incomparatively the best for sustainability, because there is no very few energy to build the building at the beginning. And even if you have a simple glazed for the building, if you study the CO2 emission on 50 to 60 years of maintenance, it's impossible to compare with other building in concrete or make with double or three sheets of glass. And we are now under studies of such buildings. It's social housing in Geneva, which are building entirely in stone, not only the facade but also inside. And the facade and inside are supports all of the flats. Sorry. Okay, it comes. This is the building with the supporting supports in stone around, and then inside there is a core which is in stone, and then this is the place for the stairs, the distribution. At the beginning, we have imagined that perhaps it will be better here. This is stone, and here imagine to have wood structure. But it will, because of the organization in Switzerland, we have no good engineer with us, and it was difficult to convince it to have wood and to make it on a building very with a budget very low. But now it's concrete. Unfortunately, this is the building. This is images of inside. And I will finish my lecture with to speak with you about workshops we organize with my association, which is l'Académie de la Pierre, and every summer I organize workshop where young students or young architects are coming with me, and we are speaking, as you can see in my building, about how to build with stone. And during this moment, this 2 weeks, we share together. We develop building which with a use of stone, with only models, without any computer or something like that, which is not. It's a problem for architect computer, as you can see outside. And also to experiment how to build with stone. This is experience in a quarry with my friend who are owner of quarries, and it's in the same quarries where Ferdinand Pouillon have take his stone to build in Algeria. I said that it was not a performance to build 100 around 100 units for 1 year because Ferdinand Pouillon have built some of the building, and the first one he built in Algeria was around 800 units in 1 year, and the stone was coming from France to Algeria. And it's why it's not really a performance for me to build just only 100 units. And this is the same quarry where Ferdinand Pouillon have dig and take his stone. And we have organized last year during summer also to build with natural materials, because I show you the building in stone, but I develop also building in earth and in wood. And this is an experience we have made in Bekaa place, Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, with all of the team. We have built building using earth, but also stone. You can see the stone on front of the picture, and then during 2 weeks we built this building of 2 levels. It's a kiosk for music in a very beautiful place of Bekaa Valley. And we organize because I said that I just come very in Senegal. I'm just arrived from Senegal just 2 days before, and in a very beautiful place of Senegal, we organized in April, and 2 weeks in the last 2 weeks of April, we organized a workshop to use also stone, earth, and wood for buildings, and in the same way we have did in the south of France or in Lebanon. This is a place where students will work and live. It's a very nice place, which is in Sin Saloum, which is like the Rhone Delta, which is like the Camargue, but because it's the ocean, we have Marais. There is this is a place where the water change its level, and to use some techniques, which is exactly the techniques Hassan Fati used in Egypt, and this is the experience. This is the stone we find very easily in Senegal. And thank you for your attention.